Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks a lot, folks, for joining us today. We know that it takes time out of your busy schedule to be part of our webinar series, and so we really appreciate the time that you invest with TAZ Networks. And in turn, as part of our webinar series, we're really trying to educate our clients and others on the use of great technology. And so today we're going to talk about keeping your employees happy and your data secure with mobile device management, or MDM. It's definitely something that in the later years here, we've seen an increase in items, and so we hope to give you some information just to come away with a high-level information. We won't get really too technical at all with anything, just so you can have an understanding of what MDM is. So just by way of introduction, if I haven't met you, really appreciate you joining. I started TAZ Networks back in 2003 in the basement, as many entrepreneurs have, and just kind of we've grown ever since. And so I really appreciate the investment of my staff and also my clients that really help us to be where we are today. My background is that I have a network engineer background, and really started on the technical side of doing things. So it's really important for me to understand the technical aspects. That's just kind of how I'm wired. But I do less and less of that, and I think the folks on my staff appreciate that. But definitely I understand kind of the inner workings of how this works, but I also appreciate from the business side of things how it really can help the business as I run a small business as well. For my MDM, just so you know, I use an iPhone. I'm an Apple guy. Never thought I would say that, but use an iPhone and an iPad after I went through many iterations of Windows phones, and eventually those died. I love some of them, but obviously the iPhone for many people has taken over along with Android, and I think it's a wise decision by Microsoft to focus on their core competencies. Just a little did you know, I was able to go to Ireland in May, loved it, and I played golf at the site of the Irish Open for next year, a very cool place called Lahinch. So if you ever go to Ireland, highly recommend it if you're thinking about it. But definitely a lot of fun to go to Ireland. Love to talk about that. Well, let's talk about some MDM items and mobile items, and we want to make this as interactive as we can. Heather is working on the back end as well, does a great job in that, and so please put in any messages or questions that you have. If she can answer them right away, she will do so. If she can't, then I'll try to tackle them, or else we will definitely get back to you if we don't have the answer for something today. But we know that technology has gotten mobile, and obviously Steve Jobs and what he did with Apple, the iPad, the iPhone, really, starting with technology and this little thing that played music has kind of grown and morphed ever since. And so, predominantly we see everyone using mobile devices. No longer is it a thing to just have, one or two devices. I think my kids have 3 or 4 devices, right? So we all have multiple devices, and that includes your staff as well. They have multiple devices, or you may be thinking about getting them a mobile device because we're a mobile workforce. It really, obviously there's good and bad to that, right? We're tied to some things, and so we need to put them away. I firmly believe in shutting them off or setting them aside on the bed every once in a while to shut down and disconnect, but also at the same time being connected at all times, or when I need to get access to information. It's a great thing. And so your business, no doubt, has grown because of technology and the mobility of technology. I know ours has. And so it's something that we recognize and understand. But with mobility, it creates issues, doesn't it? you know, right away, some folks can say, you know, we don't allow those things, right? Some of the older manufacturing companies that we deal with just have really never embraced that. And for good reason, right? They just don't want to complicate things. But at the same time, they realize now, as they've seen others coming into the workforce, maybe a younger generation, that they're used to having this mobility, constantly being connected. I also say, hey, there's a separation of church and state. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that there needs to be a separation, and it really creates an issue with my device. I come to work for you, and I put your email on my phone, or I want to put your email on my phone. Do you allow that? Well, I don't know if I want to work for a company that doesn't allow that. Do you give another phone? Do you give a stipend for the phone? Right? Well, these are all issues, right? Another thing is, hey, I don't want to work with that iPhone, right? I've got some folks here, you know, technology people, how they are. They love their Android device, their Samsung device, or their Google Pixel, or whatever. Hey, that's fine. To me, it's the same as driving that Ford or that GM or that Chrysler. You know, you have your personal preference. The ability of what it does is very much similar, right? It gets me from point A to point B. Well, how do you play with that? Do you make everyone use the same device, or do you allow others to use it? This thought of payment, right? Well, I'm using my device now to work for you. What are you going to do for me, right? Do you pay for a phone plan? Do you pay for the phones? And the thought of I'm not taking two phones with me, that's just plain stupid, right? I've heard that before. Carry one phone and have another phone, right? And so it's funny, a little side story. My wife likes The Office, and she was watching it last night. And if you've ever seen it, the Office, there's one episode where they open a new Sabre store, and Jim has this new Sabre phone on his belt. But what is he using? He's using his phone to call his wife, right? And they take pictures of that and make fun of him for that. So, you know, carrying two phones has these inherent problems for a lot of people that they don't like. So that really brought up this whole thought of BYOD, right? We use a lot of acronyms in technology, but it's bring your own device is what that stands for. And really, this issue of bring your own device is an issue in and of itself, because now we have to worry about, is that device secure? Is that device approved for use? As an owner of a business, is my information secure and good if that device comes into my workforce? And a lot of times people don't think that all the way through. So it's something that really needs to be thought of, and policies need to be put in place to really protect yourself. So what are some BYOD principles to live by, right? Make sure that you have written policies, number one. Written policies can really save you a lot of time and issues, because when you do that, when you write down written policies, no longer is it your opinion, it's stated as an HR item, and so your person running HR, your IT manager, your point of contact for a managed IT provider like us can point to that written policy and say, here's the policy. Now, if you want to change that, then you know we need to do something different. But here is what's stated. So when it's stated and it's written down, much like a time off request or holidays, it's in stone. And this is just the way our company runs. And that way there's no back and forth of, hey, I thought it was this way or that way. There's a clear written policy of if you can bring your own device and what that involves. So you want to check, number two, you want to check with maybe your employees. Do a simple survey and see. When we initially started as a company, I gave out a phone to everyone and I paid for that phone. But I started to realize very quickly that folks had two phones. They had a problem with that, and it also got to be very cumbersome. So what do employees want, right? As a good employer, that's something we always try to see. What do they want? Then you have to make a decision. Is it something that you can do? Do they want a stipend, right? Maybe, for instance, for us, just using us as a, just an example, we give back to our technicians $50 a month as a stipend, right? You use your phone X amount of time. I don't care what that is, as much or as little, but I'm going to pay $50 back to you each month to use your phone. I'm not going to give out your phone number to anyone, but for using your email, using the VPN, connecting to our network, really doing work from that phone via mobile applications that we use that shows our tickets and different things, I'm going to give you $50. Now, you may do that, or you may decide to provide a device. And there are so many plans, obviously, out there that you can go and check. But that does get tricky. We've had several clients who have had that, and the bills that they get and weeding through those bills are pretty tremendous. So you got to think about that, right? What do your employees want? Number three, again, for small business, I think you don't have someone that's dedicated to the mobility side. So it really has to be simple to administer. You want a written policy, but you don't want it so convoluted that it just causes so many issues for folks. Number four, you got to keep your personal and corporate devices separate. Now, if it's the same device, then you want some things to keep in mind with that, right? You want some items to keep in mind, and that's where MDM comes in. We'll talk about that a little bit. But really, it would be nice to keep those things as separate as they can be, because as we know, employees come and go. Hopefully not often, but that does happen. Situations occur, businesses change, businesses are bought out. So you want to really keep that in mind from the corporate side of things. And number five, when those employees leave, is it easy to wipe only the corporate data? Now, there are multiple ways, right? Not only if they leave, but if that device is stolen. If the device is stolen and you have an email on there without a password PIN, then you're in trouble, especially for those of you under compliance, such as HIPAA, right? That is really how a lot of data breaches have occurred from the HIPAA side of things that carry large fines are when devices are stolen. And we never think it'll happen, but it does. Maybe a device isn't even stolen. Maybe it's left somewhere, right? Or forgotten about. That happens too. What if the device is jailbroken? Now, what does jailbroken mean? If you're not familiar with that, that means that someone, and this occurs more often with the Android devices, someone changed the operating system because it's open, so that you can go in and add applications that aren't officially on the Google Store or the Apple Store. Or they've changed the operating of the actual phone itself. Typically, when those devices are jailbroken, they are broken of their warranty, right? And so, as a result, many manufacturers won't support them. Well, if the manufacturers can't support them, how can your business really support them? Much like a computer or a server needs to be supported, we definitely need to have support on mobile devices as well. And what if updates aren't run? What if someone hasn't updated their phone in 2 years? Are you still going to allow that on the corporate side of things? You don't hear as often items from security or hacks getting in on phones as you do computers. But trust me, it's out there, especially if someone, for instance, has Bluetooth available. If they have Bluetooth on, you'd be surprised how quickly someone can actually hack into your phone and get your information if you connect to maybe a site or you just have Bluetooth on. They can connect to your phone backwards compatibility based on just the same way a Microsoft update for a Windows computer is. They can backwards engineer these issues. So these are all areas to think about. Don't mean to scare you, but we just want to be real interested in what's happening in the mobile world because of the fact that these things do occur, and they occur on a daily basis. So it's something to always keep in mind. And really, from a managed IT perspective provider, our number one item right now is cybersecurity, keeping things secure. And so by information, that's really part of the reason why we started this webinar series, was to keep you up to date and informed and educated as well. We find that education is half the battle with a lot of our clients. So BYOD brought up another term, right? It led to MDM, this mobile device management. And so mobile device management is really a simple, affordable way to administer all sorts of mobile devices. The goal of administering mobile devices is to, at the very base, stay secure and stay compliant. And even if you aren't directly under compliancy issues, although that adds a level of complexity, you want to stay secure with your mobile devices. So it's definitely something that everyone should keep in mind. Well, I'll pause for a second. Any questions so far? Okay, good. So we'll please feel free to pop them in if you have any. So what is MDM? Well, as we mentioned, it's mobile device management. It's a way to monitor and secure mobile devices that enter the company space. You can monitor those, you can secure them, you can really make them a part of your network. We use the similarity of a computer coming into the environment, right? When you get a new computer, or when you order a computer from TAZ Networks, what do? Do we just plop it down on the desktop and have somebody start working on it? No. We get it ready, we get it prepped, right? So we add antivirus, we add our agent for security updates to make sure that those get implemented. We make sure that it's working correctly, that there's no issues. And then we add it typically to your corporate, what we call domain, right? Your security domain. And so that allows you to log into the server, log into your network with your credentials, and make sure that you have rights to do whatever you need to do. Well, the mobile devices are essentially the same. That's what MDM does, is it sets up your mobile device. That mobile device can include your iPhone, iPad, Android, BlackBerry. Yep, they're still out there. BlackBerries are, and it's making a comeback, believe it or not. And the Kindle devices. So you just had Prime Day. Hey, you got a lot of Kindles you bought. Well, that's something that you definitely can add to as well. So how does it work? Well, this is a graphic to help you kind of appreciate. It's pretty straightforward. We add a client to our MDM that we have. We use it in partnership with IBM, which is one of the top MDM categories out there. The MAS 360, MAS 360 is really what we use. And so you add a customer that accepts the terms and conditions of that MDM. There's a monthly commitment that we make sure that for 1 year you're going to be on board with that. Then we get a little agent that comes down off of that device, and we enroll the devices. So we, as the MSP, the managed service provider, enroll the client either in iOS, which is Apple, Android, BlackBerry, or other device. And so we tell it, hey, this is a device that is for TAZ Networks. Do you wish to accept enrolling your device? So at that point, your employee has, an understanding, right? They've accepted the terms and agreements of what you're going to do, that with MDM, you're only going to take care of the corporate side of things, but you will wipe things if they leave the company or if this device is lost. We'll do a remote wipe and make sure that no corporate information is lost. So they can choose to do yes or obviously no. And if they do no, then you have to decide as an employee what are you going to do moving forward. In this process, the client accepts that application. They install the mobile care application on their mobile device. And now we can configure policies. We can lock and wipe the client devices and do many more things with that from an email or a security device perspective. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But an example, for instance, for policies is maybe that device has not had a security update in 12 months. If that's the case, then we could wipe the corporate information, the corporate email, and any corporate applications maybe that have been installed on that device. And until it's updated and they re-accept the mobile care application, they will not be able to go any further. Lock and wipe definitely are other things. Maybe we set a policy that after 15 minutes of use or maybe 5 minutes of non-use, we lock the application, we lock the phone, and they have to enter a PIN code in to get back in, and that PIN code has to be 4 or 6 digits. So those are things that you definitely want to think about, and we work with you to set up those policies and get them ready to go. So let's go through a couple scenarios of maybe business areas where you could use MDM in a reliable fashion. One is a dispatch service for clients. Maybe you pick up clients. You don't have to be a car service per se, right? But maybe you pick up clients. Maybe you have someone who goes out and delivers items to clients, and you're dispatching people out, much the same as we dispatch our folks out to client sites, right? So the MDM application actually you could install, and it would allow your folks to check an internal website only to you that they would have to use through the MDM application that would say, okay, my next dispatch is to go to such and such in Novi, right, or such and such in Ann Arbor. And so they know that that's their next dispatch. Very easy, very simple to do, and cuts down on phone calls and cuts down on communication. Maybe they get to that site, right? Or maybe you have your dispatcher check their location, which they can do through the mobile application, and say, okay, my technician number 1 got to Ann Arbor. I see that he or she is there, and now I'm going to dispatch them to our next appointment after they're done there. I know it takes about an hour. I'll put it in the website to dispatch them to Wixom. And so you see that they're there. The technician checks their internal website, says, okay, we're going to Wixom, and now they check and double check. And you've checked their location and made sure that they've done that. So definitely a couple very easy items that can be done through MDM, making sure that using that through the GPS that they would have on the phone, and then also using their internal website that only is available through the MDM service. Scenario number 2 is one with HIPAA compliance. So let's pretend that we have a doctor here. We've got Dr. McDreamy, right? Dr. McDreamy, he's a pretty cool doctor, but Dr. McDreamy, you know what? On practical items, he's not too good, right? So he runs everything through the secure mobile email app that has been installed through MDM. So he goes on vacation, and he goes to New York City, right? Loves New York City. He checks his email, checks his patients through the MDM app all the time. And he's in New York City. He's on his way to Broadway. He gets out, jumps out because he's running late for the play. What happens? Well, Dr. McDreamy leaves his phone in the New York City taxi cab, right? And knowing New York City taxi cabs, if you've been there, you're not going to get that back, right? They're gone as soon as you close the door, and they moved on. Well, immediately Dr. McDreamy notifies the office, right? The office, point of contact, in turn, notifies us as the managed IT provider with a critical ticket that says Dr. McDreamy has lost his phone. Please shut it down. So through the MDM application, even if the phone is turned off, the next time it's turned on, it will immediately wipe the phone of that email that is HIPAA compliant, and it will then make sure that it's at a setting where no one has any information. It's completely wiped. It's as if it's a new phone. Now, through the MDM application, if the person is dumb enough, you actually can locate it as well. So you might be able to find that phone again. But 9 times out of 10, what these folks do that resell them, they turn off or wipe it themselves. That way it's not able to be found anymore because the application is off of there. So whatever the case is, now you're HIPAA compliant, right? You've protected Dr. McDreamy. You've allowed him to work where he needs to work. But at the same time, you've made sure that you've done what your due diligence is in HIPAA compliance, and you've followed your written procedure there that satisfies everything. So those are just a couple scenarios that you could have happen during an MDM situation that would really help in that, using that. Heather, any questions so far? Yeah, good question. So GPS is definitely used, and that's how the MDM application works. It uses the GPS of the phone, so it knows an exact location of where that person is. And that's one of the things that's, kind of this, hey, we're using this as a corporate PC, and my dispatcher promises, or it's written into your policy, we will only monitor through this MDM application during your work hours, right? Some people might think that's an invasion of privacy a little bit, and obviously you have to have, again, that definition of church and state as we talked about. But it does indeed use the GPS location, so you know exactly where that person's at. All right, anything else? Okay, great. So good question is, what does MDM cost? Well, here are our costs of what comes. There are different applications or different pieces of the application that you can use with MDM. The core mobile care is $585 per month per device, and that is for passcode or encryption of the device, remote locate, remote wipe, remote lock, jailbreak detection, update detection, and several more things as well. So that just gives you a general idea of how much that device is. Now, if you add on secure suite add-ons, for instance, a secure mail application, right? So you only allow mail from this secure MDM into your corporate network. What's the advantage of that? Well, you have the ability now to delete that application immediately if that device is lost or stolen, or if someone goes away. And also to deny them, right, to take away that information. We may be able to, with a regular Outlook or Apple or Google Mail account, we may be able to stop them from accessing anymore, but we may not be able to delete the information that's on the device. It just depends. So as a result, by using this secure email, then the whole application can, next time it checks in on the server, everything is gone. And frankly, you can do that before a person even realizes it. So for instance, and this happens right in businesses, you find out an employee is not doing what they should be. You're going to send the person back to the workforce, so to speak, and at 5 o'clock you're going to do that. Well, at 4 o'clock we could go in and delete all the information on that phone, and then at 5 o'clock that person is told that they've been dismissed, and now they have no email from the corporate side of things, contacts, things like that have been deleted off the phone. You also could use a secure browser. So for instance, as we mentioned before in the scenario, getting to a certain site, making sure that certain sites are secure, checking those sites. You can use that through the Secure Suite add-on. Mobile app management, making sure that your mobile apps are secure, that they're managed, that they're deleted. You can add them in, and then mobile app security as well. So all things, there's a little bit more of a price, $12.60 per month total, because you have to have the core mobile care and then add on that Secure Suite add-on. But if you think about that, $12.60 a month per device, very cheap compared to, hundreds of thousands of dollars of a fine that you might get, or lost productivity. You hear a lot about lost, patient infringement, or things like that really are real problems in industries. This is a way of really preventing that through MDM. So just an offer from me as we close today. We hope you found this beneficial from a high level as to the scenarios of what you can do for MDM. We'll do a free MDM readiness assessment for you. That's about a $297 item that we charge for, and we'll just review your needs. We'll talk about the business scenarios, right? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to make sure is done? Is it really worth it for you? Have a practical explanation and go back and forth, and we'll present the detailed costs to you. So if you'd like to take advantage of us on that, email me today with the subject MDM, and we'll be happy to come out, review your needs, talk about that, and see where MDM fits into your technology. Well, we've enjoyed having you today. We appreciate, again, as I said, I feel honored to have folks join us for our webinar series. We'll have one every month as we've had in the past. And I do want to say that this is a rescheduled one, so I apologize that it was rescheduled. But thank you very much for joining us on the rescheduled one. And we look forward to continuing to do these. If you have something that you'd like to know about in the future, then please let Heather or I know as regards to the topics, the education that you're interested in, and we definitely can help. We've got some archived ones as well, learning, for instance, about Office 365 or cybersecurity or what the cloud is, are all out there, and Heather can definitely point you in the right direction as to finding those and really educating you and your staff on what these different topics are. Well, I'll open it up for questions. Any final questions that anyone has? Well, we're happy to handle those now. Excellent. All right. Well, very good. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Heather will be getting the slides and the recording out and be posting this out as well. And so we really appreciate, again, the time and the effort that it took to be part of this today. And we hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot and have a great day.